What happens when Britain's most controversial royal meets one of television's sharpest interviewers? You won't believe what unfolds when Prince Harry sits down with Dermot O'Leary for what was supposed to be a promotional chat, only to witness the most explosive celebrity meltdown in this morning history. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below because you're not going to believe what unfolds. Last night's episode of This Morning delivered television gold when Prince Harry stormed off set after a heated confrontation that left viewers absolutely stunned. What started as casual banter quickly transformed into a verbal battleground that exposed just how thin-skinned the Duke of Sussex has become. The tension was palpable from the moment Harry walked onto the set. Dermot O'Leary, known for his usually gentle interviewing style, seemed determined to push boundaries that perhaps should have remained untouched. The first few minutes appeared normal enough, with pleasantries about Harry's latest projects and his life in California. However, things took a dramatic turn when Dermot decided to address the elephant in the room. Harry, you've written extensively about your family. You've done countless interviews, podcasts, documentaries. At what point do you think the public might be experiencing what some are calling Sussex fatigue? The question clearly caught Harry off guard. His jaw visibly tightened, and for a moment, the studio fell into an uncomfortable silence. "I'm sorry. What exactly are you implying, Dermot?" Harry's voice carried an edge that hadn't been there moments before. Sensing he'd struck a nerve, Dermot doubled down. "Well, there's been quite a bit of criticism about the constant stream of revelations. Some people are wondering if there's anything left that's actually private in your life." Harry's demeanor shifted completely. Gone was the carefully crafted public persona, replaced by something much more defensive and aggressive. "That's rich coming from someone who makes a living prying into other people's business," he snapped. "At least I'm telling my own story, instead of letting others fabricate lies about me." The host remained surprisingly calm, which only seemed to fuel Harry's irritation further. "But Harry, you've spoken about wanting privacy, yet you continue to share very personal family moments. Don't you see the contradiction there?" "Contradiction?" Harry's voice rose noticeably. "The contradiction is that people like you demand transparency, then criticize us when we provide it. You can't have it both ways, Dermot." What happened next was truly extraordinary. Dermot, clearly emboldened by Harry's defensive reaction, decided to press even harder. "Speaking of having it both ways, there's been considerable discussion about your family's financial arrangements. Living in a multi-million-dollar mansion, while simultaneously claiming to be victims of circumstance, how do you reconcile that with the struggles of ordinary people watching this show?" The question was like pouring gasoline on an already smoldering fire. Harry's face flushed red, and he leaned forward aggressively in his chair. "How dare you question our financial situation? You have absolutely no idea what we've been through, what we've sacrificed." "Sacrificed?" Dermot's eyebrows raised skeptically. "You've secured multi-million-dollar deals with Netflix and Spotify, written a best-selling book, and live in one of the most exclusive areas in the world. What exactly have you sacrificed?" The tension in the studio was now so thick you could cut it with a knife. Harry's hands were visibly shaking, whether from anger or adrenaline was unclear. "We sacrificed our family, our security, our entire way of life. But I suppose that doesn't matter to someone who's never had to make difficult choices." Dermot wasn't backing down. "But Harry, these were choices you made. You chose to leave the royal family. You chose to move to California. You chose to sign these lucrative deals. Taking responsibility for your decisions isn't the same as being a victim." The words hit Harry like a physical blow. He sat back in his chair, his mouth opening and closing as if searching for the right comeback. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold and calculating. "You know what, Dermot? This is exactly why we left. This toxic mentality, this need to tear people down, to question every decision we make." But Dermot was far from finished. "Let's talk about some of those decisions. You've made serious allegations about racism within the royal family, yet you've never actually provided any concrete evidence or named names. Don't you think the British public deserves more than vague insinuations?" The question was the breaking point. Harry shot up from his chair so quickly that he nearly knocked over his coffee cup. "Are you calling my wife a liar? Are you suggesting we made up racism for attention?" "I'm not suggesting anything," Dermot replied with infuriating calm. I'm simply asking for clarification on very serious accusations that have damaged reputations and relationships. Harry's composure completely cracked. Unbelievable! This is exactly the kind of interrogation we were trying to escape. You're just another mouthpiece for the establishment, aren't you? How much are they paying you to ask these questions? The accusation hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Dermot's professional demeanor finally showed cracks. Harry, that's a serious allegation you're making. I'm simply doing what journalists are supposed to do, ask difficult questions. Journalists? Harry laughed bitterly. Is that what you call yourself? You're nothing more than a gossip peddler with a television show. At least the paparazzi are honest about what they do. The insult was devastating, and Dermot's face showed he felt every word. That's completely uncalled for, Harry. I've treated you with nothing but respect throughout this interview. Respect? Harry was now pacing behind his chair like a caged animal. You call these ambush questions respect? You invited me here under false pretenses, then decided to turn this into some kind of trial. Dermot leaned forward, his own patience finally wearing thin. Nobody ambushed you, Harry. These are questions that millions of people want answered. If you can't handle basic scrutiny about your public statements and actions, perhaps you shouldn't make them in the first place. The words were like a red rag to a bull. Harry spun around to face Dermot directly, his face contorted with rage. Don't you dare lecture me about what I should or shouldn't do! You have no idea what it's like to live under constant scrutiny, to have every word twisted and manipulated. But you're the one doing the manipulating now. Dermot shot back, his professional composure finally cracking completely. You can't expect to make serious accusations, sign million-dollar deals, and write tell-all books without facing questions about them. The studio had become a war zone. Harry grabbed his microphone and yanked it off, the harsh sound of feedback filling the air. This interview is over. I won't sit here and be attacked by someone who clearly has an agenda. Dermot stood up as well, matching Harry's aggressive energy. The only agenda here is getting honest answers to legitimate questions. If that's too much for you to handle, maybe the problem isn't with the questions. Harry's face was now purple with rage. He pointed an accusatory finger at Dermot. You're just another establishment puppet, probably taking orders from the same people who made our lives hell. This is exactly why we had to leave, because of people like you who disguise their venom as journalism. And there it is, Dermot said with a bitter smile. When you can't answer the questions, attack the questioner. Very mature, very royal behavior indeed. The final insult was too much. Harry grabbed his jacket and stormed toward the exit, but not before delivering one last venomous parting shot. Enjoy your ratings boost, Dermot. I hope destroying people's reputations pays well. You're everything that's wrong with British media, and history will remember you as nothing more than a footnote in other people's stories. With that devastating final blow, Prince Harry stormed off the This Morning set, leaving Dermot O'Leary sitting alone, visibly shaken by the intensity of what had just unfolded. The cameras kept rolling as the host attempted to regain his composure, but the damage was done. What was supposed to be a simple promotional interview had exploded into the most dramatic celebrity walkout in the show's history, leaving viewers absolutely stunned by the raw display of entitlement and aggression they had just witnessed.